Waterfalls, the chance to get those filters out, right? Pop an ND filter on and slow that shutter speed down to get a dreamy, ethereal image. It can simplify a scene and give an abstract look, unless you fall into the "I detest milky water with every cell of my body, burn the photograph and throw away the camera, learn how to use a fast shutter speed, damn it" category. Everybody has their go-to water shutter speed preference. Some people like fast shutter speeds and others like really slow, dreamy, soft water. And there's no right or wrong. It is up to the individual photographer and their preference and their vision for their image. And we can't really criticize other photographers' visions for their art, can we? Well, I mean, we could, but it'd probably be a little mean. Anyway, there is no right or wrong, but something that I don't do is experiment past my preferred exposure when I'm photographing waterfalls to see if it suits the scene better or if I like it. So that is exactly what I'm going to do today. Now this is going to be a bit of a tricky shoot. The weather is coming in very, very hard right now, and it's amazing what 12 hours of British weather can do. I mean, this location is tricky enough on a dry day, but yes, this is going to be interesting. So what I'm going to do is hand you over to narrator Courtney in the studio.
Yep, sure, okay. Bag B-roll. Let's start with the bag B-roll. So here I have the OM1 Mark II with a 12 to 40mm lens, which was kindly loaned to me for this video after I really enjoyed using the OM1 for my fungi photography a couple of weeks ago. I do tend to find when I borrow and loan gear for a week or two that it's never really enough time to get to know what a camera can do and get used to using it. So there are a few features of the OM system that I have yet to try out. So after navigating all the rocks to the base of this fall, I was really drawn to this fallen trunk or branch. Specifically, I noticed a curve here, almost like an S-curve, that I thought would be great as a foreground element. So I simply started to go through a series of shutter speeds from about 1/50th of a second to 5 to 10 second long exposures using the live ND filter on the OM1 Mark II. And it was really bizarre at first because I could see exactly how the water may move and how the image may look before I had even taken it. I was very surprised to find that there were 7 ND filter options in this camera, and I only expected 2 to 3 maximum, and on location I actually didn't notice the 7th just hiding there on the next page, so I never used that option. But it made the process so unbelievably easy and quick. I didn't have to go to my bag to reach for any additional gear to add to the camera, which was ideal because I was looking for a speedy process as the water levels were rising slowly around me. What I dislike about long exposures is you get this white mass where the water hits the pool below and there just isn't a hint of texture in there. But I quite like with long exposures where you start to get the movements in the surface of the water. But as a single image, the 13th of a second shot is probably my favorite here. There's just enough texture and detail with a little softness, but still detail in the white there. What I have done for the final image is merge 2 exposures together because I really like how the waterfall looks in this image, but I like how the pool has that movement in the 1 second exposure, and I'm pretty happy with this. There's also this lovely golden strip of colour that comes from the waterfall and just connects down to the branches, which is really nice.
I'm not using polarizing filters, which I do tend to use in my waterfall photography, because I wanted to just use a very basic, very minimal setup, and I wanted to see if it were possible to use this ND filter without needing to bring any other kit with you. I didn't expect to be able to get such long exposures with this. I thought that I would have to add my own filters on top, but I was proven wrong.
Now that I think about it, doing photography in between storms with limited time is probably not the best idea, but I suppose we get out when we can. The lack of light and colour was somewhat uninspiring, I'm not gonna lie, and so I decided to move on to another fall for something different before the weather decided to turn again.
So it is no longer raining, which is good, and we've got a pretty heavy flow of this waterfall, which is amazing, but I'm trying to take some wide, long exposure shots of it just to see in which direction all of this water is going, and it's all very, very chaotic. There's no particular swirling happening or anything like that. So I'm not really leaning towards a wide shot of these cascades. Instead, I've noticed something here. So I'm thinking a horizontal 16:9 crop here, because we've got all of this water that is flowing off to the right, creating these wonderful waves and lines. But we've just got this rogue little cascade right in the back that's going straight down. And I think it's such contrasting lines that it's just really, really interesting. So I'm going to go through a variety of shutter speeds again and using the live ND filter, because I think that these waves of water will look fantastic, very sort of abstract with longer exposures. So I guess let's see.
This is a nice shot, but it's just nice. In the end, I don't really feel too strongly about it, at least not as much as I did on location, which happens. Not every single image you take is going to be absolutely groundbreaking, but I did appreciate the experimentation with my shutter speed. I had actually taken an image that I preferred more before the weather had rolled in, as when I get to a location, I tend to spend a bit of time just connecting to my surroundings and getting into the right frame of mind before I do some video or photography. And due to the influx of water, I actually could not stand in this position a second time to take this image again, so I'm glad that I did it the first time. I think this experiment is kind of validating my choice to usually shoot somewhere between a fourth and an eighth of a second, as I still prefer that within these images. I do like a slightly softer feel, but there are cases where I would choose a different shutter speed. I don't really care for the long, super long exposures, unless like here there is some solid movement happening that adds to the image. But there are cases where it doesn't look too bad. I don't like how this looks with a less abundant flow, but with lots of moving water, I think faster shutter speeds do look better in my opinion. But regardless of my preferred shutter speed being somewhat validated, I do think it is worth taking the time and effort to run through a variety of shutter speeds on location, because there have been a few times in the past where I have not done this and I get home and look at my images and wish that I had. But hey, every image is a chance to learn. I did receive a weather warning for that afternoon. A storm was on its way. There was going to be winds up to about 90 miles per hour and some localized flooding. So I did head back to the car to beat the weather home. There are times where I don't mind going through the process of setting up tripods and filters on location. I feel as though through making the effort to go through those steps, it puts me in a more intentional frame of mind a lot of the time, which is still possible handheld as well. But I really have appreciated being able to capture some images when I was time limited by less than ideal weather without needing to reach for any other additional gear. All I used was the OM1 Mark II, the IBIS and the Live ND filters. There are a few other features that I haven't used yet in this camera, such as the Grad ND filter, the Live Composite, and I haven't shot in high res yet either for some reason, so I guess another time. Anyway, I would love to know your thoughts on your preferred shutter speed. Do you have one? Do you just experiment? Are you a filter user? Otherwise, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you next time. To end, here is a clip of me being beautifully graceful as usual.